How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another live stream. We're going to be going over my top altcoins to be buying in the market right now, as I believe there are great discounts across the board in the crypto market. Bitcoin is currently sitting at $69,460, hovering right around those 2021 bull market highs of November. And Ethereum is currently sitting right on $2,000. So alts have come down a considerable amount. My buy range got hit for the altcoin market, which is always based off Bitcoin. I don't chart altcoins in isolation too much. I mean, I do look at their charts just for some general context, but I don't really give alts that much trust and that much trust. I mean, I don't hold them to that standard, right? Where you kind of do your main charting on the individual altcoins. I always look at Bitcoin, use that, and then make my assumptions on the altcoin market. There's too many people who don't look at Bitcoin. They focus primarily on the altcoins chart and they think it's a low, they think it's a good buy, but then Bitcoin's screaming something completely different. So, I don't give them too much respect to where I chart them completely independently from Bitcoin. Bitcoin tells me the story. The altcoins are what I see as, Bitcoin on steroids in terms of multipliers. Bitcoin might do a 2x or a 3x from here in the next couple of years. Altcoins could do a 10 or a 15x in the next couple of years from here, maybe even more depending on the altcoin that you get into. But my buy range was hit. We basically came down a hair away from the 200-week moving average, which is currently sat at 58K. We came down to 59K. Maybe this isn't the bottom. I keep talking about this, but maybe some people are listening for the first time. Maybe this isn't the bottom, but I'm going to be buying anyway because for me, this is all one big bottoming range. Just like in 2022, this was one big bottoming range. I believe we're also at something very similar here. Could Bitcoin come down to 50K? Could it even come down into the 40s? Absolutely, it could. But I'm not going to wait for that to happen before I start buying into the market because I believe we've already hit extreme fear. If you look at the fear and greed index right now, it is at 10. I think it gave the lowest reading it's given in years. So fear and greed index, absolute extreme fear. RSI on Bitcoin as well. The lowest RSI we've seen in years. We came down a hair away from the 200-week moving average and the golden pocket. So therefore, I have the right to believe that now is finally a good time to be buying altcoins after months of being on the sidelines, waiting and just watching the market, hoping that my buy level would eventually get hit, which it has done now. So right now, I'm about 70% in altcoins and about 30% in stable coins. Now, I do want to add, I have some money on the bank, which I can easily add into my stable coin pile. But as of right now, I would say I'm about 70% invested in the market, and I've got 30% in stables as a bit of a reassurance thing. In case if we do go lower, I can always deploy even more. And I told you guys on the last live stream, if Bitcoin does have a very deep bear market, then I will start using my assets as collateral and I'll start borrowing against them to acquire more Bitcoin. But we're certainly not at that point just yet. Right now, this for me is a very healthy bear market and looks to me like we're going to see a nice bounce in potentially the coming months. Now, with that said, don't underestimate the amount of time we could go sideways on Bitcoin. We've seen in the past long sideways consolidation ranges, especially after very volatile moves with the price. You need some time to cool off. You need some time to go sideways to then prepare for the next major move. And that's something which we always seem to see after a major move down or a major move up. You see consolidation, you see Bitcoin find a base, and you have some time, you have some months to actually accumulate into the altcoin market. So this is my current list of conviction plays in the crypto market right now. I would like to add Hyperliquid to the list, but it hasn't quite hit the buy zone for me just yet. Let me just pull up Hyperliquid. It's starting to come down a little bit. It's at $30 right now, but Hyperliquid did have a nice bounce, and it's one of those coins which in the last month is actually up. Now, what I'm finding very interesting is comparing altcoins to Bitcoin. If we look at Bitcoin in the last month, it's down 24%. But a lot of altcoins aren't actually down as bad as Bitcoin. Let's just take a look at some random examples. So BNB is down 31%. So that's down basically the same amount as Bitcoin. But if we look at some of the altcoins which, have already had bear markets now for some time, let's use Casper as an example. How's Casper been in the last month? 35%. So yes, it's worse than Bitcoin, but typically, if Bitcoin's down, let's say 28% in a month, you're expecting Casper to be down 60% in a month. You're expecting low caps to be down much, much, much more than Bitcoin. But the reality is, a lot of these altcoins are down the same amount as Bitcoin. Some have even held up better than Bitcoin. Some have held up a little bit worse. But the reality is, they're not bleeding out to Bitcoin at the same extent as they have been previously, which I find very interesting. So people keep asking me, when's the next alt season? Can you give a prediction? No, I can't. Can't give you a prediction on when the next alt season will be to the T. I can give you a range. All right. And what I would say is most likely we're probably going to range now at low prices on Bitcoin for quite a few months. And I expect in the second half of the year, maybe we start to pick up a bit. But if we look at the altcoin season index, you can see we did actually have 3 mini altcoin seasons during Bitcoin's bull run. Now, they were mini ones, but they were still alt seasons nonetheless. I can't necessarily give you a time on when the next one will be, but what you can see is typically these alt seasons kind of have about 8 to 12 months of a gap between them. So the last one was in September. Maybe the next one is going to be Q3, Q4 of this year. Okay. You could just assume that based off the current trend in terms of how long it lasts for the next alt season. Something else to add as well is there is this argument that a lot of people are giving, which is the bottom is not in because the bottom will be in Q4. That's what a lot of people are saying. The bottom is not in because the bottom has to be in Q4. Now, I get it. If you look historically speaking, that is what history tells you, is the bottom should be Q4. But history also tells you that Bitcoin shouldn't make a new all-time high before the halving, which is exactly what it did in 2024. We front run the entire bull run and actually went and put in a new all-time high before the halving. So we already priced in the halving event. We already priced in future bullish news, and we actually front run it. Now, there is also a chance that we could front run this idea of a Q4 bottom. Everyone's saying the bottom's going to be Q4. What if we front run that? And already we've had a large amount of pricing in of this Bitcoin bear market, and most of the sellers at this point are exhausted. Because let's face it, if you were looking at Bitcoin here, and you just saw that we had a regular 4-year cycle top in October. We've now lost the 50-week moving average. You would just think, right, sell everything. We're going to go down for the whole of 2026 because that's what history gives you, right? That's the historic precedent. But I think based off the velocity of this dump and how quick it's been, there is a chance we've already priced in a lot of the negativity for this year already in Q1. The same way we already priced in a lot of the positivity for the halving before it, and the same way we already priced in a lot of the positive news around Trump. Okay, when was the top here? January 20th. What's the significance of January 20th? It's the inauguration day. So the very day Trump was inaugurated was the day we had a local top on Bitcoin. Why was that? Because it was already priced in. So what you're seeing here is a clear trend that Bitcoin likes to price things in months and months and months in advance. It's a very liquid asset, and it's a very intelligent asset the way it moves. It prices things in before you can even comprehend. So everyone's saying we're going to be down all year. There is a chance a lot of that thesis, a lot of that negativity has already been priced into the Bitcoin chart now, because everyone's saying that. That's the consensus view. That's the mainstream view. Everyone's saying we're going to have a late Q4 bottom. What if it doesn't happen because we've already had a lot of that priced in? Now, obviously, any scenario can happen. I'm always open to scenarios. I just lay out my personal beliefs on this channel. That's all I do. All I do is lay out my beliefs where I personally think things are going. And I'm personally expecting a bottom earlier than Q4. And if I'm being completely honest, part of me thinks the bottom is in fact in down here at 59K. And if it isn't in, it's going to be in very close to where we were, meaning maybe we bottom out at 52K, 55K, but pretty much this range for me is most likely a bottoming range. And the reason I say this range in particular is because you've got a 200-week moving average on Bitcoin. You've got a golden pocket going from the cycle low to the cycle high, and you have the support region of the 2024 sideways lows, okay? We wicked down to 49K. That was the low. So you've got the support region there as well. So the lows of that are acting as support. You've got some trading volume there. And you've got the trading volume of the two all-time highs in 2021. So there is an awful lot lining up between 50K to 60K as a bottom. Where did Bitcoin go? It went between 50 and 60K. It went down to 58K. So there's a chance we've already formed the bottom. And if we haven't formed the bottom, there's a chance it's just a slight bit lower. So what I'm getting at here is this is absolutely a buying range for me on altcoins. Could we go a little bit lower? Yes, but I am buying regardless because I know that these prices are very, very cheap. Smash the likes on the stream. I'm going to go through your comments in a moment. Before I do, definitely sign up to the Blowfin exchange. It is linked down below. If you deposit some USDT into your account, you can win up to $5,000 if you use my specific link in the description. This is the exchange I buy crypto on and sell crypto on. It's non-KYC, so that means you don't need to put a passport in or anything like that, and you can use it anywhere in the world, even the US if you have a VPN. Coin Operated says, smash up the like on your way in. Absolutely. Get those likes up, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It's evening for me, but I assume if you're in the US, it's still morning time. What do I think about Fetch Coin? So I used to hold Singularity Net before it did the merger with Fetch. And I made a 14x on Singularity Net. Made great gains for my VIP members on that one back in the day. And then they all did this merge into Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. And since then, the coin hasn't really done anything. It's kind of just been in a bit of a lull. But let me just take a look at the chart because I think this project could do something maybe. I want to pull up a separate tab here. But yeah, I'll take a look at the chart. And honestly, it could be one to consider because, look, these AI coins have been dumped on crazy. Like, these AI coins are getting super, super cheap now. And basically, for those of you who don't know, FET is one of the big AI names in the space. You had Singularity Net, you had Fetch AI, and you had another one that all did a merger together, right? Ocean Protocol, was it? Was that the other one? But yeah, this thing's in like a clear downtrend here. I mean, like all altcoins, but this is obviously very evident looking at the chart. And these kind of channels, they can go on a lot longer than you think as well because they're not compressing like a wedge, really. I mean, there's a slight wedge element to it, but this is quite a big range. So, I mean, look, could be a low, especially if Bitcoin's bottomed, then this could be a low here. But it's lost all the fib levels of support. So I would be cautious of this one personally. I'd be cautious, but maybe it makes a comeback, especially if we get a nice AI pump again in the market. Global Investor says, but Bitcoin hovered around 25K for 7 months before it took off again. We are due for another drop to 50K. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not nickel and diming it. To me, 58K, 50K, I'm not that bothered, to be quite honest with you. It doesn't make a huge difference. And what happens is people keep moving the goalposts and keep dropping it lower as their target. And then what happens is you end up not buying at all. And then the bottom finally is in, and then you end up chasing. You end up chasing those green candles. And that's exactly what happened to loads of people in 2022. Because I remember literally, you could do a poll. Now, I didn't do a poll on my channel, but I could have done a poll asking you guys what percentage of you think the bottom is in, what percentage of you think we're going lower. And I can assure you that at 15K, the vast majority of people thought we were going down to 10K. The vast majority. I don't want to name loads of YouTubers in case I get it wrong, but a lot of these mainstream YouTubers that you guys watch were calling for 10K, 8K, 3K, some of them were even calling for. And if they were being conservative, they were calling for 13K. But none of them were calling the bottom at 15K, really. Okay? I was saying that I believe that was a bottom or very close to a bottom, and I was buying in. I was putting my money where my mouth was, right? But most people, most of retail especially, were thinking we were going to go much lower. And that's why I've kind of always learned that you can't nickel and dime it, guys. You've got to see a bottoming range, and you've got to buy that range. DCA into that range. Don't throw your whole cash position out on one day. DCA into that range. Use your cash flow to your advantage. Put that into the market and get a nice position in some of the top quality altcoins and in Bitcoin. You know, I personally believe everyone should hold Bitcoin. I understand why some people don't want to hold it because it's not going to do the X's that they're hoping for. But yeah, I told you guys the buy range was around the 200-week moving average, and that's where we went to. So, I mean, we executed this move perfectly. We sold at the 50, the remains of our portfolio. We were already selling on the way up. I was cashing out at 117, 120, cashing out, cashing out, cashing out. This was the line in the sand, got rid of the rest. And then we've come down to the buy range. Now, look, I'm not going to be butthurt if Bitcoin comes down to 50K. Doesn't make a big difference to me because I know that it's going to go back above 100K at some point again. So all of the nickel and dimers are probably going to be left behind because the reality is if we do go lower, they're going to move the goalpost again. They're going to drop their target lower and they'll just never end up buying. And then we do leave the station, they're left behind, and they end up chasing the green candles and buying at higher prices. So sometimes there's a bit of humility that you need to have and just say to yourself, look, this might be the bottom. It might not be the bottom, but I'm going to buy either way because I know that these are cheap prices. If we look at the RSI, if we look at the 4-year moving average or the 200-week moving average, we know that this is a good time to buy. Bitcoin has mean reverted to basically its 4-year average. That's very, very bullish. So nickel and diming between 50K and 60K, it's just going to get you wrecked, guys, because you're not going to buy at 50 if it goes there, most likely. Because if you weren't buying at 60, I highly doubt you're going to be buying at 50, just based off the fact that you didn't buy at 60, because 60 was a very clear range to be stacking Bitcoin. And that's why I had a limit buy order in at 60,100 on Bitcoin. Thank you for all that you do. No problem. Appreciate you being here. Just keep DCAing into Casper. Thank me later. Yeah, I agree. Casper's definitely a good one to be DCAing into right now. I'm a big fan of the chart on Casper. It's in a massive falling wedge. See that? Big fan of the chart. So I'd definitely be stacking up Casper here. Very bottomed out RSIs. Really nice pattern that it's been in for some time. And like I said earlier, Casper hasn't bled that much in the last month because Casper already began its bear market in 2024. So it's starting to actually show some strength to its Bitcoin pair now. Hey, Archie, are you still buying XPL or waiting on that? I'm buying XPL. I'm bullish on it. I think it'll do well. The chart looks terrible, but if you look at the on-chain metrics, XPL is ranked 7th out of all the layer 1 chains and layer 2 chains in terms of DeFi TVL. So it's a very solid layer 1. It's also backed by Peter Thiel. So very bullish on it. And speaking of altcoins, which I'm bullish on, I gave out a full altcoin watch list. I'm not going to reveal every pick here. So let me just take it off the screen. But I gave out a full altcoin watch list to my VIP members. This is a full document, about 20 pages in it. And you get this as part of the VIP membership. If you want to become a VIP member, use the code bear market at checkout. I'll be removing that code pretty soon because it looks like Bitcoin's heading up. Maybe not. Maybe we chop. But once Bitcoin starts pushing higher, I will actually be removing that discount code. So make sure to use it if you're interested. Use the code bear market, all one word, at checkout, and you'll save yourself, I believe, up to 35% off the membership. The altcoins will fill the 1010 wicks, and most will likely go under them. So this is a narrative I'm seeing a lot. They'll fill the 1010 wicks. I don't agree with that in its entirety. I think some of them will fill their 1010 wicks, but not all of them are going to do that. Some of them need to go to 0 to fill their 1010 wicks. Like look at Cosmos, look at Casper, look how low they went. So I'm not. I mean, 1010 was like a glitch, to be honest with you. But I get why people think that. I'm personally not waiting on the 1010 wicks for everything, because that's another kind of thing that could get you left behind. Are you no longer on Patreon, or is it just WAP? So primarily I'm on WAP now, but you can still join, I think, on Patreon. It should still work if WAP doesn't work for you. But WAP is the best platform to join on. There's a link down below if you're interested. Is AI last cycle's play, or do you see it being viable for years to come? Of course, AI is going to be viable for years to come. AI is not going anywhere. That's going to be a dominant narrative driving stocks, driving crypto. And they lump AI and crypto in together, right? You've got the AI and crypto czar, David Sachs. He's both. So I think AI is definitely going to be here to stay as a narrative in crypto. You've just got to make sure you're buying the right AI coins, because the vast majority of AI coins are absolute garbage. And I've been saying this on the channel for years. Most AI coins are pure and utter scams. And you've seen them all go to 0 now, besides the ones that have stuck around, such as Tau. So I like Tau. I like virtuals. But I wouldn't go all in on AI. Like, AI is a good narrative, but it's not a narrative that should be like a super high percentage of your portfolio. The majority of a portfolio, in my opinion, should be broad layer ones, the likes of Solana, the likes of Sui, altcoins which have multiple layer one chains which have multiple use cases, because that way they do well during any narrative. Okay, Solana will do well if AI has a run, because there'll be AI coins built on Solana. Solana will do well if memes have a run, because meme coins will be built on Solana. Solana will do well if gaming has a run, because there'll be gaming coins built on Solana. So what you want is a chain that really is agnostic to all these narratives. It just does well regardless, right? If you look at Gunzilla, I believe they're now actually built on Solana. But they weren't always built on Solana, were they? I'm pretty sure they used to be on Avalanche, and then they pivoted over. So yeah, Solana is definitely the big layer one to stick around. And if someone's got a low risk appetite, just go into Solana and it will do well regardless of which micro narratives perform. Jake the Snake thinks we're going to $50,000. Yeah, look, it's possible, but I don't think there's a huge difference personally between 60 and 50. When we look back, it's going to be the equivalent of complaining about 3K and 4K Bitcoin. They're both going to look very cheap in years to come. The bottom is always 364 days after the top. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is until it isn't, right? Remember, guys, we haven't got decades and decades of data sets with crypto. Like, crypto is a relatively new thing. So all of these trends are eventually going to be broken. They work now, but they're not going to work indefinitely. But, you guys make a good point. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am not ruling out a Q4 bottom. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying it's not my base case right now. But that can change, obviously. Sir Will says usually Bitcoin returns to prices of the previous all-time high, and this is aligning with the 200-week moving average thesis. So the bottom is in or very close to. I completely and utterly agree with you. Last cycle, we bottomed out slightly below the previous high. This cycle, we bottomed out potentially slightly below the previous all-time high. It would line up. And it's one of those things. Right now, we're all kind of doubting it, and we're all kind of saying, it might be, it might not be the bottom. But I guarantee you, if Bitcoin goes to 100K, everyone's going to say that was the bottom. Everyone's going to say, yeah, looking back, that was the obvious bottom. It was slightly lower than 2021. It was around the 200-week moving average. It was around a macro golden pocket. We had the lowest RSI ever on record. We had the lowest fear and greed index score ever on record. They're going to go, oh, it was so obvious. But that's always hindsight. In the moment, it's very difficult to have the balls to say, yeah, that is the bottom. It's very difficult to say that. Especially if you have a YouTube channel and someone's going to clip it up and say, look how wrong this guy was. But I think it very well could be a bottom. There's a lot of things lining up there. There's multiple points of confluence. It's not just like one metric I'm going off. It's not just the 200-week moving average. As strong of an indicator that is, it's not just that that's lining up there. And even if that isn't the bottom, we're going to have a bounce from here, right? We're not going to just crash down to 30K in one move. We're going to have a bounce, and there's going to be money to be made either way. I know you are almost always right. I thank you for that. For me, I started with your troll call. That's amazing. Yeah, troll made a ton of people a ton of money, man. How many X's did troll do? I think it was a 25X. Was it 24X, 25X, something like that? Crazy gains. And everyone doubted my call on troll. Everyone called me an idiot. They said, why the hell are you buying this meme? I literally bought the floor, and this thing rocketed. It absolutely rocketed. I made people so much money on troll, man. Like, there was one guy who told me he put in 10K and 20X that money. And I think he sold at the 20X. So, man, people turning 10K into 200K in a matter of weeks. Insane returns. But yeah, I appreciate you being on the stream. And look, I'm not always right. I'll be the first to admit that. I am not always right, but I'm right more often than I'm wrong. And that's the important thing. What would be the altcoin I'd pick if I had to choose only one altcoin? For safety, I would go with Solana. If you want to be risky, I would go with either Sui or Casper if you want to be a bit more risky. But for safety, I would stick with Sol. Crypto Genius says, I'm going to buy the VIP today. That's amazing. It'll be great to have you in the group. In the most active Discord group out there, you gain access to the Crypto Archie altcoin watch list document, which goes through my top altcoins that are on my radar. And you gain access to this Discord chat, which is always active. And there's voice chats every single day. Every day there's voice chats, and I'm in 90% of them. Omar says, most of the altcoins had their wicks filled. Plus, if they aren't filled, they don't have to get filled immediately. It could take ages for the wicks to get filled. That's a good point as well. Same with CME gaps, right? Everyone points to CME gaps and says that has to be the bottom. Sometimes it would take 4 years for it to go back to that level. And some CME gaps have just been left there. That's another thing people forget to mention. Some of the CME gaps are all the way down. I don't know the exact prices, but there's CME gaps way below us, right? Crypto is dead until it isn't. Well said. And I wanted to share this post here, which kind of ties into that. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but 2019, you're an idiot. 2020, you're an idiot. 2021, you just got lucky. 2022, you're an idiot. 2023, you're an idiot. 2024, you're an idiot. 2025, you just got lucky. 2026, you're an idiot again, right? So This is how people view crypto investors. Whenever there's a bull run, you just got lucky. But every year you're holding through the hard times, and you're not even holding, because I don't always recommend holding through the hard times, because I haven't done that. I sold in the good times and I'm buying now in the hard times. But basically, we've stuck around on the channel, right? And, it wasn't a good business decision for me to sell, because I lost probably half my VIP members when I sold out the market, because they're thinking, why would I be in the group if the guy's not giving buy alerts anymore? That's what I joined for. So loads of people left my group. So I lost a lot of money from a business side of things, selling and being honest about that. A lot of other YouTubers, they wouldn't tell their audience that they sold, but they would do it anyway, because they know that they have to keep the morale up. They have to keep sentiment up. Otherwise, people will leave their groups. People will stop watching the channel. A lot of people unsubscribed to the channel once I sold. Okay. And, selling at high prices is always an unpopular move. I put a post out here. There's this guy who is criticizing my sell move in the market, saying that it was ridiculous and, I'm going to get wrecked and all of this, and saying that the 50-week moving average is just a retail indicator. Never heard so much nonsense in my life. What an absolute load of drivel. Absolute garbage. Nonsense. Complete crap. Okay. These moving averages have worked on Bitcoin for like over a decade. They've been working. You can go all the way back to 2015. They've been working here perfectly. So to say it's just a retail indicator is just hilarious. It made my day, when I saw that comment. But yeah, man, you gotta clear out the noise. Selling high is very unpopular. Selling low is seen as popular. People get it. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. You can sell now because it's gone down a lot. Crypto is dead, so you might as well sell. Buying low is unpopular as well. So the most unpopular moves, ironically, are when you buy into altcoins low and when you sell altcoins high. People don't like those moves. And people will come up with any form of excuse to make themselves feel better about why this won't be the top or why this won't be the bottom. So when it's the top, they're saying this time's different. We're going higher. We got ETFs now, all this bullshit. And then when we're really low to close to a bottom, they say, we're going lower. Crypto's dead. There's going to be a big exchange go bust. World War III, CZ. They come up with all these different reasons, right? Just got to stick to the plan, guys. Buy low, sell high. Very, very simple. Look at the big RSIs, like on the weekly. Look at when it's cheap. Look at the big moving averages. When we get close to the 200, you're in a buy zone. It's just so simple, guys, but people overcomplicate it because of all the noise. And the best thing you can do as a crypto investor is to drown out the noise, cancel out the noise, focus on the black and white charts, and buy the fear and sell the greed. What are my thoughts on Kita? It's pretty good, but the exchange listings, I think, aren't the best. So that's just something to be aware of. Will you be buying micro caps this bear market? Some gambles, you can say. Yeah, probably I'll get into micro caps when the time is right. But right now I'm focused on stacking up the blue chip plays and the quality plays. Those are the ones I'm kind of putting my priority on. But absolutely, I'll get back into micro caps at some point. Does XBL have 10 to 15x potential? I would say it does. It looks dead when you look at the chart. I'm not denying that. But if you look at the on-chain metrics, if you look at the backing with Peter Thiel behind it, it's a solid coin, okay? And it's in the stablecoin narrative. It just launched at a bad time, and there was a lot of selling pressure coming in from VCs. Once that is out, once the sellers are exhausted, I do expect it to pull some form of 10 or 15x type of move. Can I pay for the group in crypto? Yes, you can. I think WAP actually has a feature where you can pay in crypto. I think there's a way you can do it on WAP. But if you can't do it on WAP, you can actually also do it through my Discord group. There is a section that says pay in crypto. So you can do it through my Discord group as well. And if you drop me an email, we can help you out. So the email's in the description, the WAP's in the description. Just email us if you need help paying in crypto, and we'll get you sorted, get you access to the group. Looking at the fear and greed makes me think the bottom is in. Possible. But one thing I would say is the fear and greed was at extreme fear when we were at 80K, and we did then drop lower. So one of the things people were saying when I was arguing that 80K wasn't the floor was that the fear and greed bottomed out, therefore the bottom has to be in. That's not always the case. The fear and greed can go really low and then come back up again, and then you can just go lower again, right? So a lot of people were pointing at the fear and greed back when we were at 80K, and they were saying we can't go lower. Well, we did. It's because other things are at play other than just that. My voice kept cutting out earlier. Hopefully it's all good. Did I mention the alts? Yeah, these are the altcoins I'm buying right now. So you got the 2 VIP gems, but besides those, I'm giving you them all, transparently. These are the alts in my portfolio. I would like to get a position in Hyperliquid. Let me see the Hyperliquid chart. Because I do want to get a position in Hype. I just thought it was a little bit expensive because it had a nice pump. It's not a bad buy here, but I would like it cheaper. I got to be honest. If I was going to buy Hype, I would want it a little bit cheaper than $30 because it was at 19 back in January. So that would be the kind of range I'd be looking to buy Hype, not necessarily up here. Archie, I have 15K USD dry powder. I want to make an overall 4 to 6x in 2026. Which 3 coins could I get that? So 2026 could be mostly a sideways year, but if alts do start to pick up, I think you could get a 4 to 6x for sure from these prices. I would be looking for that kind of range at more of the mid cap range in market cap, because Solana's not going to do that. Bitcoin's not going to do that. Obviously, you want to be looking down the ranks a little bit. So maybe looking at something like, say, maybe something like Casper. Stuff like that. XPL. Archie, Hyperliquid or Asta, which is better? So both are great. I think both of them can be in a portfolio. Hyperliquid, just a little bit too expensive for me to buy here. Not saying it won't go higher, just the $30 region is a little bit too high for me to want to buy it. But Asta, on the other hand, is a much, much, much lower market cap. Where are we? Let me compare them. Now, Asta is basically the same as Hype, but it's just the Binance version, CZ-backed version. So it's the same product kind of thing, right? So 10x is the difference in terms of Asta going to the all-time high market cap of Hyperliquid. That's a 10x on your money. So that's a significant difference. So Asta's the better play if you want more of a value play, something that's cheaper. Hyperliquid's the better play if you want something that's safer. Okay. Isaiah says it's scary how accurate you have been this cycle. Yeah. It's just years and years in the market. That's all it is. Time looking at the charts. I'd expect that if you guys did something for 8 years straight and it made it your entire life, you'd be pretty good at it after 8 years, right? So it's just dedication. Same applies to anything. Andrew says Pump Fun has got to be the VIP gem. It is not, but it is on my watch list. It is on my watch list, but it's not in my portfolio. But it is on the watch list. We are going into a recession, says Corey. I don't know about that. Some of the data's still okay. It's not suggesting a recession, but yeah, if the labor market really starts to weaken, then it's possible. And we've got to bear in mind we're getting a new Fed chair, guys, and this guy is a bit different to Powell in a sense, but he's also similar in a sense. Kevin Warsh isn't the massive dove that people were hoping for. During 2008, he was arguing against quantitative easing. He was arguing against QE. He was also at times arguing against lowering rates. So Kevin Warsh is not the type of guy to come in, print a load of money, send rates to zero. That's not how he is. So just go look at Polymarket. If you want to see an idea of how many rate cuts we're getting this year, just check Polymarket. Don't listen to Trump because he's gonna make you think rates are going to zero as soon as Warsh gets in. But that's not gonna happen, guys. It's a group, the Fed. It's not one entity. It's not one person controlling the whole group. It's not a dictatorship. So each Fed member has one vote. You've got to bear that in mind. So Straight says, I missed the beginning. What is your most bullish altcoin? Most bullish altcoin at the moment, in terms of the chart, would actually be Casper. I think Casper's chart looks amazing right now. I really think it's a solid buy at this range. So in terms of the chart, I would say Casper. But, you've got to be diversified. You shouldn't go all in on one altcoin. Just get a bunch of them. These are all quality ones. These are ones that I've researched heavily, and I think they're all gonna do great. So Smile says, I was gonna get your VIP, but I can't. I was gonna get your VIP, but can I use it just through my phone, or do I have to actually use a computer? You're not on the computer very much nowadays. Yeah, so you can use your phone. I use my phone all the time for the group. It's actually great on the phone. I always use it on the phone. So you get full access to the group through the phone, through the PC, pretty much any device it will work. But yeah, it works great on the phone. So yeah, that's not an issue. I'm always on my phone in the group, in taxis, on planes, always using it. Rex says, what about ETH? Do you think it'll go back to its top? Yes, I do. I think Ethereum will go a lot higher than its current all-time high in the next bull run. You got to realize that altcoins had a very lackluster bull run this cycle, and I was telling people that I always believed it would be a lackluster bull run for altcoins. It wouldn't be as good and as glamorous as 2017 or 2021. I always said it'll be more of a tamed altcoin season. And that was exactly what we had. Now look at Ethereum here. Look how it respected my trend line I had. I shared this trend line to my VIPs and said that that's where I think Ethereum will go to. And look at how accurate that was. Let me find that. Crazy how accurate that was. There we go. Look. So ETH was basically at 2K, and I said lots of support at 1.7K for me. Lots of support at 1.7K for ETH. So for me, Ethereum has a lot of support here where it just came down to. It's got a clear ascending trend line for support. But my worst case scenario for Ethereum, and this is possible, especially if we have a much deeper bear market, the worst case scenario, meaning my bear case, unlikely but possible, would be Ethereum pulling back either to the 2022 lows or the April 2025 lows. That would be like my worst case doomsday style bear market scenario for ETH. And if you think about it, it didn't get far from that. It was at 1.7K just a few days ago. It's not far from 1.3. So if it was to break out of this range and break down, lose this support trend line, then I would be looking at ETH dropping another 20% from the support to worst case another 50%. But I don't see that as a base case. But in the next bull run, I think Ethereum goes much higher than the current high. We had a rejection here, right? Double top, essentially. But in the next bull run, I do see Ethereum hitting some of these fib levels. So you've got a 1.618 extension at 7.3K, and you've got a 2.618 extension at 11.3K. Somewhere in that region, I'd be looking for an Ethereum top in the next bull run. Which chart looks better, ETH or CAS? They both look great. They both look good as buys. But guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream here. I appreciate each and every one of you being in the stream today. Hit up the likes if you enjoyed or you got any bit of value from the stream. Definitely sign up to an account on Blowfin using the link down below, and you'll get up to $5,000 in rewards if you use that specific link in the description. And use the code BEARMARKET at checkout for any of my membership options, link down below as well. This has the most active Discord group out there, and I'm in the group every single day on voice chats, talking to the members, bringing you guys a ton of value. So check it all out. The link's down below. $2 donation from Michael says, thoughts on Aerodrome? Notice it's not on your list. It's on my watch list. I'm a big fan of Aero. I think it will do great. I just prefer the perp dexes right now over the traditional dexes. So I prefer the dexes that do futures, like Hyperliquid and Asta, but I am a fan of Aero. When is the next bull run is the real question. Exactly. And that's a question that we'll probably discuss on the next live stream. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. That's a great topic to do the next live stream on. And I'll plan that for tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.